This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors of the 2024 Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida. Whether you're joining us live in Boca Raton or via live stream from the comfort of your home, we are going to deliver you 50 intensive hours of programming, more than you can absorb in the 4 days that we give you. That means you're going to have to play the recordings. It also means that we do interviews with every speaker and every exhibitor before the conference so that you can arrive prepared and allocate your time efficiently. I have the great good fortune today to introduce to you a friend of very long standing, Sean Roosen, a serially successful entrepreneur who has been sponsoring our educational efforts for many years. I'd like to thank Sean, both as a shareholder, which I am, and also for his ongoing support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium and our investor boot camps. Sean, welcome, and thank you for your support. Thank you, too, for your efforts on behalf of shareholders like me.
Rick, it's great to be here, and thanks to all the people that follow the Rule Symposium. Enjoyed my presence there last year with Robert Friedland on the Living Legends panel, and we continue to work towards all the great stuff that you guys do and giving us a direct drive into the investors and the people that actually own the companies that we work for.
Well, let's talk about the living legends. I think one of the most important and certainly the most popular part of our symposiums has been the living legends, where we interview people like yourself who have built multi-billion-dollar natural resource companies from scratch, talking about the lessons that they learned and how that makes them better investors. So in light of that, let's talk about how Sean Roosen became Sean Roosen. Tell me about your prior successes and tell me what you think sets you apart from the 99% of promoters who fail.
Sure. Rick, my starts were pretty humble. I was an underground miner at the Kidd Creek Gold Mine in Timmins, Ontario. Did a diploma at the Halebridge School of Mines. Was a drill foreman for long-ear diamond drilling, so I really worked, from the bottom on up. Became a CEO in 2000, and I founded my own private equity group called Eurasia Holdings. In 2003, I bought into a little company called Osisko, which had a $500,000 market cap. Because I put $500,000 into it. And then we got Canadian Malartic, the now Canada's largest gold mine and our ninth largest gold mine in the world. We bought it from bankruptcy from a notary there for $88,888. Barrick had sold it in 2003 for $1, so they now have what's called the Osisko rule, so there's always a back end now. But we got the deposit free and clear. And then, we went ahead and had the discovery. Drilling where nobody wanted to drill and focused on big mines that nobody was building. We were the first big open pit bulk tonnage mine in Canada with over 1 billion tons of material. We built a 55,000 ton a day mill there, and it's still Canada's largest gold producer at 670,000 ounces a year. We got into a hostile with Gold Corp in 2013, 14, and we ended up selling it to Yamana and Agnico for $4.1 billion in total consideration. I then spun out a royalty on that on the Canadian Malartic mine. So shareholders got paid $4.1 billion there, and they also got stock in our new company called Osisko Gold Royalties, which I IPO'd on the New York Stock Exchange the day after we sold at a $500 million market cap. I CEO and chairman of that company for the last 10 years. And it's a $4.1 billion company with a $200 million of revenue at a 98% margin or 96% margin. And still shareholders still enjoy that company at $4.1 billion. So I've been to 4 billion twice already. We've been to $1 billion a couple times in other ones. And our total platform build from the Osisko start with my friend John Brzezinski and Bob Wares and my business partners, we built $11 billion worth of companies with having raised $3.7 billion in equities. Osisko Development is my current passion. I'm 100% dedicated to Osisko Development. This is 100% of my time. And the reason that I'm dedicated to Osisko Development is number one, we got a big old gold deposit that's in a Brownfield camp in central British Columbia, which is my MO. I like Brownfield stuff. And the second project is with my good friend Robert Friedland to the south of us in Tintic, Utah. It's the Osisko and Ivanhoe Electric show in Tintic right now. So stay tuned. It's going to be pretty colorful. and there's a lot. We're hunting elephants there. We're looking for a Bingham style porphyry deposit. Bingham's about 40 miles north of us, which is North America's second largest copper gold porphyry mine, having produced 58 billion tons of ounces of gold and 800 million ounces of silver and 35 million tons of copper. So we think that between Ivanhoe and ourselves, we're in the right neighborhood for that discovery. So we're pretty excited about that one as well.
I remember you telling Eric Sprott and I that the sort of hallmark of your success was that you found your way into cheaply very large camps that had probably been cash starved, and that you had both the courage and the foresight to drill them, to introduce capital to them, whereas other people had just milked them. That obviously worked for you at Malartic, the old Malartic high grade. You went in there not looking for small, discrete high grade deposits, but rather for one great big massive deposit, and found it. Now you're moving onto the Caribou and the Tintic. Tell us something about why and how you do what you do.
Yeah, I mean we're brownfield specialists. We run a deep science bench. I've got Chris Loader and Ruben Padilla and Terry Harbert are kind of our brain trust for the big stuff on that side. Bob Wares, Dr. Bob was the guy that was the driver behind the technical success at the discovery at Malartic. So we're science first and money second. And we keep a top 10 list of our targets that we want to own. And we don't just take projects that come along. We spend sometimes years getting control of projects, like we did at Barkerville and like we did at Utah. Utah took us 14 years to get control. At Barkerville, it took us about 8 years. And I started Barkerville with my good friend and sometimes partner in different things, Eric Sprott. Eric was a big partner of mine in the Osisko One story. And we started Barkerville together essentially back in 2016. We went in there and looked at what had happened there historically. It was discovered in 1858, and it was a huge gold rush in the late 1800s. And there was 20,000 people. It was the biggest city north of San Francisco for almost 30 years. And it was the reason that British Columbia was incorporated into Canada is because the Brits thought that there was far too many Americans showing up at the gold site. So that was a bit of history there, but it has been in constant gold production essentially since 1858. We own 2,000 square kilometers, about 500,000 acres there now. We drilled 700,000 meters, which is about 2.1 million feet of core drilling since we got it. Unfortunately, most of the historic work that was done there didn't stand up to the current tests of 43101. So we did use it for guidance, but everything that we've shown on that project was fresh drilling from us, essentially starting in 2017. So the data that we put together there is immaculate, and we're really proud of the quality of work we do anywhere. But our calling card is we did Canadian Malartic, which we sold with 13 million ounces. After 12 years of production, they have a 6% positive reconciliation from our model, and they're developing the Odyssey mine, which is a discovery that we had in 2013. So that camp is now 33 million ounces, so one of the biggest in the world, and certainly the biggest in Canada. And carrying forward with that theme, Rick, of doing big things that most other people wouldn't try or can't get access to the capital try. Robert Friedland was a big inspiration in how I approach things. We're a little bit apart. I mean, I'm about 10 or 12 years younger than he is, and depending on who's telling the story. But Robert set the stage for do no small thing and stick to big deposits, and that's where we've been successful, and we have the technical ability to execute these programs. As you may have seen, we did about 6 million feet of drilling at Windfall Lake, and that's been a big success in Quebec. That's the second, and it's the highest grade discovery in the history of Quebec right now, with about 7 million ounces overall, and about 4.1 of it in reserves. Just did a joint venture with Goldfields. And then we fast forward over to Caribou, which I think is going to be the next big thing in North America for gold mines. We received the A certificate on that in October 2023, and we're in the final couple of months for the full release of the mining and construction. So it will be the next shovel-ready project of any scale in North America. We're going to start out at 5,000 tons a day. and they're looking for about 220,000 ounces a year of production from that. It's a big bulk tonnage underground mine. The analogs would be sort of a Young Davidson, LaRon, or Goldex mines that were underground bulk tonnage mining. We got a high grade quartz vein sheeted goldfish system that in situ sits about 11 grams. Then we mine it. It goes down to about 4.42. And then we bring it back up with the ore sorter, and we end up with about a 1 ounce a ton flotation product. And then we finish that at our existing mill facility, or we ship it directly to the Japanese. It's a big project. It's averaging 14,000 ounces per vertical meter. It's over about a 4.5 kilometer strike length, or about 3 miles. And we've only drilled it down to 1,000 feet, and at resource level, and we've drill tested it down to 3,000 feet, and the ore body is very stable all the way down there. So it's going to be a big one. And the construction release, we're really looking forward to getting the shovels in the ground. So that Caribou is, quite an extraordinary story, and it's 50 kilometers, about 30 miles of strike length in the main mineralized zone, and it's about 20 miles in the parallel zone. So it's about 55 miles of mineralized corridor here that hasn't really been drilled. We've only drilled 5% of it, and that's where we're going to start. We're going to put it in a central mill facility, but people should think of this one as a future mining camp that their grandkids will know about, because it's going to be around an awfully long time.
And in the brief time we have left, tell us something about Tintic, another historic camp, where you're chasing both extraordinarily high-grade shallow deposits, but probably more importantly, at least, the Bingham analog.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a project that we identified in 2010, working with Dick Sillitoe, and was the godfather of all things copper gold porphyries in the world. Wrote the first white paper on it back in the 1980s. And Dick, all our senior geologists are his disciples. So we worked a lot with him, and he's been the most successful copper gold explorationist. He and David Lowell are kind of the gurus of our industry. In terms of where we are, we finally got control of this project, even though we've been on it since 2010. The big headliner here is the porphyry gold target that we think is a Bingham lookalike. Bingham is 40 miles to the north of us and was eroded down to the top of the porphyry, and has been active as a mine for almost 75 years now. The pit is over a mile deep, and you can see this thing from space. We think that where we are and where Ivanhoe is, we got a shot at 2 or 3 of these things, but they're not at surface. They're probably somewhere between 2,500 to 5,000 feet below surface. So Robert's using his Typhoon, and we're not as smart as Robert in the geophysics business, but we go from IQ to NQ. So NQ is the size of drilling. So we're drilling right now on some deep targets, and we're definitely very excited. We're in our second hole right now. We're seeing some pretty interesting stories. We probably need another 7 to 10 holes to kind of unwind the history, but this targets, because they were deep, were never drilled, even though Kennecott mined here for years. Our property has 23 previous producers on it, 5 for gold and 18 for CRDs. But within the camp, the area around Tintic is the second biggest metal endowment in all of Utah, outside of the Salt Lake City Bingham complex. So we're very excited here, and then we've got Freeport to the south of us and Rio to the north. So for us to be in that company, we're pretty happy about it. But we do have the ability to do big things, and to think about big science. We got Dr. Ruben Padilla and Terry Harbert, our guys, but Dick Sillitoe has really been overseeing the targeting on this. The high-grade gold that you mentioned is along the eastern flank of the Graben. So we got about 7 kilometers of high-grade gold systems with 5 previous producers on there. They only mined down to 1,300 feet, or about 400 meters, because they ran into the water table back in the day, and they were mining for flux. So they were only taking like the white quartz stuff that had gold in it and sending it over to the Bingham smelter. A lot of the sort of end members of the porphyry system and high-grade system that we reported at a couple 100,000 ounces, over 20 grams in the immediate. We just got to ramp down into it. We're looking at that right now. But there's 35 kilometers of historic workings there that only go down to that 1,300 feet, and they've produced about 2 million ounces, 2.5 million ounces in that little trend. So we've nicknamed that one the Golden Rectangle. And then we've got these 18 CRD deposits to the east of us. Just about every hole that's been drilled into that side on the east has hit some form of silver, lead, zinc, gold. With some of these things having crazy gold numbers like 4 to 6 grams as background, but we got one small zone there that's about 2.3 million tons. That was done. A PA was done on in 2011. Running about $650 to $800 rock, depending on the time, the spot price. And then huge potential in there that nobody really drilled these things. They were tracing pebble dikes, and the old timers went down there, just sunk shaft, and all the exploration was done just by jackleg drilling. So a lot of these things are undrilled, so we're pretty excited about that part of it as well. So we got 3 ways to win on this one. We also have a large tailings fund that was left there from the CRD mining, where at the time there was no value for manganese. So the State Department actually has been looking at all these strategic minerals, and there's a large deposit there that's sort of over $1 billion worth of manganese in situ that that could be in a bonus package as well. So a lot going on in Tintic, pretty exciting place, and obviously having Ivanhoe Electric as a neighbor brings a higher level of excitement and to the site and to the area. So we're looking to be loud and proud alongside of our friends in that one.
Well, Sean, I think the message here is that you're repeating a formula that you've been successful with before. To the extent that our attendees want to be in touch with you and learn more about Osisko Development, who do they contact and how do they reach that person?
Listen, my people, I give out my own contact. That's Roosen at Osisko Development. Feel free to put in there. There's also our investor relations line on the website, osiskodevelopment.com. And if you ping us, we will answer you. Phil Robinek handles most of my stuff and an excellent person as a resource. But I will, he'll see my stuff and he'll take it on.
Sean, on behalf of shareholders of Osisko Development, of whom I am one, thank you, and thank you too for your ongoing sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. I look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton.
Thank you, Rick, and just remember the Osisko strategy, which is summed up as SUDS, which stands for Shut Up and Drill Stupid.